Okay, guys, I think this is going to be a great video. I mean, as I was doing research, as I was like kind of looking up these stats for, just to make this video, I came away very surprised, and my opinion of one of these players just completely switched. I thought I was going to be kind of fading him this offseason and not willing to pay the price that he was going to go for. But now, after seeing all this, I think that I'm going to do the exact opposite. I'm about to go out and try to send offers for him. But anyway, before we get into the video, if you want to join a Dynasty Fantasy Football group chat, completely free. I think we got like 70 people in there right now. A lot of conversation, a lot of great talk there. Go down, hit the link below. Just literally all you have to do is, I don't even know if you have to make an account. You just open up the app and then completely free. You probably don't even need to put an email in or anything. And then also, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please do so. We need to get to 15, we don't need to, but I would love to get to 1,500 subscribers by the end of the month. We're very close, and if you like Dynasty Fantasy Football, you're most likely going to like this channel. I'm not going to lie, I feel like a lot of Dynasty content on YouTube is not the best, okay? I can confidently say I think that this channel provides better Dynasty content than anything else I've seen on YouTube. I'm not going to say on the internet, but at least on YouTube, I think that this is the cream of the crop. I'm confident in saying it. Make sure you subscribe. But let me first start off with DEEBO Samuel. And this is a wide receiver that I really bought into, and I drafted him in a lot of spots last season, especially in rookie drafts. I was getting him, in the second round of some super flex rookie drafts, which was hilarious in my opinion. And I didn't even necessarily like DEEBO Samuel before the NFL draft. But we see the San Francisco 49ers take him with the 4th pick in the second round. Like 5 picks behind where the New England Patriots took N'Keal Harry. And we see N'Keal Harry in startups in rookie drafts going as like the 1st or 2nd overall player. And then we see DEEBO Samuel slipping to the 2nd round. It was a clear inefficiency in my opinion. And I grabbed DEEBO Samuel in a couple spots, but I think I'm probably going to be looking to trade him this offseason. And let me tell you why. Okay, so first let me start with what DEEBO Samuel did in the 2019 NFL season. It was very, very impressive. He had 57 receptions, 800 yards, 3 touchdowns, and what was even more interesting about him is how he was used in the running game. Obviously, he didn't line up as a running back, but with what they did with him on jet sweeps and sending him in motion, just really showed that Kyle Shanahan wanted to get the ball in DEEBO Samuel's hands and just viewed him as one of the best assets the team had on the offensive side of the ball and just a dynamic player. And we see this with his 14 rushes, 159 rushing yards, and 3 touchdowns. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but if you think about it, that's a lot for a wide receiver. That's pretty much a rush a game, and especially for a rookie who's not going to see the field that much, you just know when he was on the field, they were trying to get him the ball. Now, let me kind of dive into what he did in the playoffs. And San Francisco played 3 games in 2019 in the playoffs. Obviously, they had the bye, and then they went to the Super Bowl. But I think we can kind of confidently say that DEEBO Samuel only contributed to 2 of the games. It sounds kind of ignorant to say, but if you keep in mind what they did in the Green Bay game, they just ran the ball down the Packers' throat. The Packers really couldn't do anything, and Jimmy G and DEEBO Samuel, George Kittle, they didn't really have to play ball whenever they played Green Bay. So I'm just going to say, whether I should or not, that this is kind of in 2 playoff games because they didn't really need to pass the ball whatsoever. DEEBO Samuel had 10 receptions, 127 receiving yards, 6 rushes, and 102 yards. And especially, we can just kind of remember the Super Bowl. Remember that they were scripting up plays for DEEBO Samuel. They wanted the ball in DEEBO's hands. DEEBO was one of the most athletic, not necessarily athletic, but just explosive and electric players on the field. And I think that Shanahan was smart with wanting to get him involved early, and that's how the 49ers were moving the ball down the field at the beginning of the game so successfully. It's really on the back of DEEBO Samuel. Obviously, he tailed off at the end of the game. If he would have kept on that pace, I think people would be just through the moon for DEEBO Samuel this offseason. But, he kind of tailed off. It's just one game, but it's just a game that everyone has their eyes on, and it's very significant for his value, whether it should be or not. Now let's kind of just talk about the situation he's going to be in this offseason, like what's changing. So we know Jimmy G is locked in. They're not going to let George Kittle go anywhere. But Emmanuel Sanders is a free agent. He's also going to be, I want to say 33 years old. I think he's 32 right now. I think he's going to be 33 by the time the season starts. Now, are they really going to be willing to pay Emmanuel Sanders? Do they really believe Emmanuel Sanders can be something? Now, this is kind of slides. Let me bring up a video I talked about the other day where I talked up Jalen Hurd and why I think he was a fantastic dynasty buy right now. Jalen Hurd is a third-round pick that the 49ers spent last offseason, an early third-round pick, keep in mind. And I think that he's kind of their replacement for Emmanuel Sanders. They're two completely different kind of wide receivers. But like Kyle Shanahan said, I think the week before the Super Bowl, he doesn't really care if a wide receiver can run and get separation at the catch point. He doesn't care about route running because Kyle Shanahan is going to scheme them open, and he just wants these wide receivers to be weapons. He wants to use them just as chess pieces, and once the ball's in their hand, he wants them to be able to make plays, and that's exactly what Jalen Hurd and DEEBO Samuel can do. So in my opinion, I think that Jalen Hurd steps into that Emmanuel Sanders role, and I don't think he's going to command the targets Emmanuel Sanders does, obviously, or Jalen Hurd would be valued significantly higher, not only by myself, but by everyone else in the Dynasty community. So this kind of is going to open up more space for DEEBO Samuel, and I think as soon as Emmanuel Sanders leaves, we can maybe see DEEBO's value continue to rise this offseason, especially as the hype gets there. But I'm going to talk about why it was just these two main facts, in my opinion, kind of changed the perception, at least my perception of DEEBO Samuel. And that is he is 24 years old. Okay, I know kind of 24 years old. Who cares? Okay, why that is significant, it puts in context what he was able to do his rookie year. I think because he was such an old prospect, he was so polished, I kind of question the ceiling that DEEBO Samuel has. I mean, if we look at other wide receivers around the NFL, we see Chris Godwin. Y'all know, I hate Chris Godwin where his value is. Y'all know I'm one of the biggest Chris Godwin haters ever. But to keep in mind, Chris Godwin's 24 years old. Chris Godwin has played 3 seasons in the NFL. Juju Smith-Schuster has played 3 seasons in the NFL, and he's 23 years old. So keep in mind, DEEBO Samuel is a significantly older. He was a significantly older rookie than pretty much everyone else in the class. So I think that his production was kind of on par for what we should expect, and I don't think that we should see his value really increase that much just because I kind of question where his ceiling can be, especially since George Kittle is always going to be the number one priority in this offense. He's always going to be the number one target, and he's always going to be leading the team in both targets. I mean, it's kind of sounding redundant here, but in receptions and receiving yards. So for all those factors, I think that DEEBO Samuel, while he may be a safe player, he may be a great weapon for the San Francisco 49ers, I kind of question his long-term upside in Dynasty, and I may be looking to sell, especially if Emmanuel Sanders leaves San Francisco and we see DEEBO Samuel's value continue to rise. And now this next wide receiver, y'all obviously know who's going to be, it's in the title of the video, but DK Metcalf, this is the guy I was saying that I've completely changed my mind around. I kind of whiffed on him in startup drafts, and let me tell you why. I hit on DEEBO Samuel, but with DK Metcalf, I didn't come away with him anywhere. I don't have him on a single team, and that was because whenever he fell to the very end of the second round of the NFL draft, I was really concerned about his medicals because everyone, and I repeat, everyone expected DK Metcalf to be a first-round wide receiver. He was being mocked in the 15 to 18 range in every single NFL mock you looked at. If you go and look at if you wanted to make a prop bet and you wanted to bet him to be the number one wide receiver drafted, I think he was the favorite to be the number one wide receiver drafted. I think it was projected to be DK Metcalf, Marquise Brown, and then like Hakeem Butler. But we see DK Metcalf just completely fall to the very end of the second round. He went behind guys like Mecole Hardman, who nobody had on their radar whatsoever. So because of his name value and because of the talent that he kind of stuck around in the first round of a lot of people's boards. And I wasn't willing to take him there just because I was worried about the medicals. But, look, here we are now. I'm willing to accept the fact that I was wrong. And let's get into the fact with what he did in 2019. So in 2019, he quietly, in my opinion, had 58 receptions, 900 receiving yards, and 7 touchdowns. if you would have asked me to guess DK Metcalf's stat line for his rookie season, I would not have said anything close to that. I thought he flew extremely under the radar until the playoffs, and I did not expect that whatsoever. But if we look at the playoffs, in 2 games, he put up 11 receptions, over 200 yards, and a touchdown. So this is a wide receiver that, in my opinion, really crushed his expectations in 2019. He far exceeded them. And we look at the profile of this wide receiver. Keep in mind, he is a monster. We all saw the pictures that went viral last offseason during the draft process. He's a solid 6'3", 228 pounds. And do y'all remember Twitter broke after he ran his 40 on the combine. He ran a 4.33, which gave him a 99th percentile speed score and 99th percentile spark score. And I remember seeing that, and as soon as he ran that 40, I remember going to group chats and saying, the Bills are taking DK Metcalf with I think they had the 9th overall pick or something. I was like, DK Metcalf, top 10 NFL draft pick. He's going 9 overall to the Bills. And then if we remember, he goes out and runs an atrocious 3-cone. I mean, a 3-cone that got just everyone. That's all they talked about. They completely overlooked his 40 time after that 3-cone, saying that, look, I told you he wasn't agile. I told you he wasn't a good route runner. He can't do anything but run a straight line. And it really got in a lot of people's heads, and I think that's maybe another reason why he's slid down NFL draft boards. I mean, it's kind of because we saw him have a completely healthy 2019, in my opinion, it's still a mystery why he fell so far in the draft. Because even when we look at his college production, obviously he did not put up great totals just because he was significantly injured throughout college. But he comes into Ole Miss and he was a super high pedigree wide receiver coming out of high school. And he goes and puts up a 32.1% college dominator rating with playing with both A.J. Brown and Dawson Knox. So this, in context, is, in my opinion, is elite. We see how A.J. Brown is already becoming one of the NFL's best pass catchers. Dawson Knox was a very good rookie tight end for the Buffalo Bills. So these are 2 quality pass catching options he was playing with Ole Miss, and he was still able to put up this production that he did on limited playing time. And then so now let's look at his situation going into 2020 and really what we can expect. So unlike DEEBO Samuel, DK Metcalf can and most likely is the number 1 pass catching option in the Seattle Seahawks offense. And not only is he going to be the number 1 target, but he is playing with what is possibly a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. I mean, who are you going to put? Patrick Mahomes at 1. And then can you put any other quarterback at 2 other than Russell Wilson when it comes to throwing the ball and running the ball? Obviously, if we're talking fantasy, we're putting Lamar Jackson. But I'm saying just terms of pure talent, I think that Russell Wilson easily a top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Nobody's going to argue that. And then so maybe in 2020, with both Rashad Penny and Chris Carson injured, they're forced to open up the offense and throw more. And so if we look at DK Metcalf with his profile, he profiles as a just freak. Like I can't say there's nothing else in the NFL like DK Metcalf right now. I mean, there's no one else. He, at least on player profile, he best comps to Andre Johnson. So he's a unique player, and he's going into year 2 after putting up an extremely impressive rookie season. And to put in context his rookie season compared to DEEBO Samuel's, DK Metcalf was only 22 years old, so he was a solid 2 years younger than DEEBO Samuel. And at the same time, like we talked about with DK Metcalf missing so much time in college, I think that, he probably isn't close to his ceiling, considering he couldn't get in the reps in college, he couldn't get the experience. So, maybe he's getting the same reps now, his rookie season in the NFL, that DEEBO Samuel was kind of getting his sophomore season at South Carolina. So if we just zoom out and objectively look at these 2 wide receivers, I think DK Metcalf has a top 5 wide receiver ceiling in his range of outcomes. Obviously, it's not likely he hits that, but I could easily see him taking a massive step forward going into year 2 with the best quarterback in the game and just finally getting the experience he needs. So now let me talk about, obviously y'all probably know where I have these wide receivers ranked ahead of each other. I have DK Metcalf I mean, significantly higher than DEEBO Samuel in my opinion. Going into this exercise, before I did this research, before I looked this stuff up, I would have probably had DEEBO Samuel ahead of DK Metcalf. And that was probably just due to me having DEEBO Samuel on a couple Dynasty teams and me not having DK Metcalf anywhere. So, if anything, this is completely opposite when it comes to bias. And I'm going to definitely go out before I upload this video and just send out and go across all my leagues that I have DEEBO Samuel and try to flip them for DK Metcalf right now, because I think they are they're valued right next to each other in startup drafts. In my most recent startup, DK Metcalf went 53rd overall, DEEBO Samuel went 54th overall. So they're right next to each other. If you can flip DEEBO Samuel for DK Metcalf, I would even be willing to add something. But thanks so much, guys. If y'all enjoyed the video, if y'all got anything out of it, make sure to leave a like. And if you have not already, make sure you subscribe. Have a great day.